The emergency alarms echoed through the Galactic Council chamber. Ambassador Li Chen sat quietly in the human delegation seat, while chaos erupted around her. Alien species of every shape and size argued, shouted, and clicked in their native languages. The translation devices struggled to keep up. 3 more systems have fallen. The Valorian commander slammed his armored fist on the table. His species looked like lions that walked upright, covered in ceremonial battle armor that gleamed under the chamber lights. The Zathrene swarm devours everything in its path. 7 of our member species are gone, completely consumed. Chen watched the holographic display at the center of the room. It showed the galaxy with red markers spreading like a disease across the outer rim. Each red dot represented billions of dead. The Zathrene were unlike any enemy the galaxy had faced before. They were an insect-like collective, billions of creatures sharing one mind. They ate entire worlds, converting all biological matter into more of themselves. The Kef delegate raised one of its many tentacles. The Kef were known as the greatest strategic minds in the galaxy. Our projections show the swarm will reach the core worlds within 2 years if we cannot stop them. We need military forces from all member species. One by one, species offered their soldiers. The Valorians pledged their honor-bound knights. The Draken promised their fire-breathing warriors. The Shen would send their silent assassins. Each species tried to outdo the others, showing strength and bravery. Everyone turned to look at the human delegation. Ambassador Chen felt their stares. She knew what they were thinking. Humans had been part of the galactic community for 200 years, but they were known as traitors and diplomats. They built businesses and made deals. Nobody thought of humans as warriors. Ambassador Chen, the council leader said, its crystalline body chiming like bells. What will humanity contribute to this war effort? Chen stood slowly. She was a small woman, barely reaching the shoulders of most other species in the room. Humanity needs 48 hours to consult with our home government. We will have an answer then. The Valorian commander laughed. It was not a kind sound. 48 hours. While worlds burn, what could humans possibly offer anyway? Your species has no military tradition. You run shops and embassies. Other delegates murmured in agreement. Chen felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her face calm. 48 hours, she repeated. That is our request. The council leader granted the recess. As the chamber emptied, Chen caught whispers and comments. The aliens thought humans were weak. They thought humans were afraid. Let them think that, Chen decided. They would learn the truth soon enough. Back in the human embassy, Chen activated the secure quantum link to Earth. The holographic image of Supreme Commander Okoye appeared. The commander was an elderly woman with gray hair and scars on her face. She had seen real war. They want soldiers, Chen reported. Every species is sending their best warriors. The Zathrene are overwhelming everyone. And what do they expect from us? Okoye asked. Nothing. They think we're merchants and diplomats. They don't believe we have a military worth mentioning. Okoye was quiet for a moment. They don't know about the colony wars, do they? No, that was internal. We kept it quiet. And they don't know about Project Reaper. Chen felt a chill. No one outside of Earth's unified command knows about that. It's been classified for 150 years. Okoye pulled up files on her end. I'm calling an emergency meeting of the Command Council. If we're going to do this, everyone needs to agree. This isn't a decision one person can make. 6 hours later, Chen watched the meeting through the quantum link. Generals, admirals, and political leaders from all of Earth's regions sat in a secure bunker deep underground. They all looked grim. Let me be clear about what we're discussing, Okoye said. The Galactic Council wants military aid. We can send regular troops, but our simulations show they wouldn't be enough. The Zathrene are too numerous, too relentless. Normal soldiers will die by the millions. A general from the Asian Federation spoke up. You're suggesting we activate the Reapers. The room went silent. Someone started to object, but Okoye cut them off. I know what they are. I know what we did. I was there when we locked them away. Okoye's voice was hard, but they were created for situations exactly like this. Impossible odds. Enemies that don't stop. Battles that normal humans can't win. They're monsters, another leader said quietly. We made them into monsters, and then we were so afraid of what we'd created that we put them in frozen sleep and tried to forget about them. Yes, Okoye agreed. But right now, the galaxy needs monsters. The Zathrene can't be reasoned with. They can't be scared by normal means. They just consume and grow. We need something that can fight them and win. A diplomat asked the question everyone was thinking. Can we control them? Last time after the colony wars ended, some of them didn't want to stop fighting. We had to force them into stasis. We have better protocols now, Okoye said, and we'll send handlers. Colonel Ramirez has been overseeing the Reaper program for 30 years. If anyone can manage them, he can. The debate went on for hours. Chen watched as humanity's leaders struggled with the decision. Finally, they voted. The result was narrow but clear. Humanity would send the Reapers. When Chen returned to the Galactic Council chamber 48 hours later, the room fell quiet. She walked to the human delegation seat and stood before the council. Humanity has made its decision, she announced. We will contribute military forces to fight the Zathrine swarm. Relief showed on many alien faces. Then Chen continued, we will send 10,000 personnel. The relief turned to confusion. 10,000? The Valorians were sending 5 million knights. The Draken promised 2 million warriors. Other species were contributing hundreds of thousands each. 10,000? The Valorian commander looked insulted. Is that all humanity can spare? Perhaps you should sit this war out and let real warriors handle it. Chen met his eyes without flinching. Our 10,000 will be sufficient. Sufficient? The commander laughed. Your pride will cost lives. The Zathrine number in the trillions. What can 10,000 humans do? We're not sending regular soldiers, Chen said carefully. We're sending specialists. Personnel trained for situations exactly like this one. The KEF delegate's tentacles waved thoughtfully. What kind of specialists? Chen paused. She thought about the files she had read. The Reapers had been created during humanity's brutal colony wars, when human factions fought each other in the outer systems. They were genetically enhanced, cybernetically augmented, and psychologically conditioned to be perfect soldiers. Too perfect. When the wars ended, humanity had realized they had created something that scared even them. The kind we hoped we'd never have to use. Chen said finally. You speak in riddles, the Valorian commander growled. Are these soldiers or not? Chen looked around the chamber at all the alien species. They were brave. They were noble. They were about to face an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations, and they had no idea what was coming to help them. No, she said quietly. We're not sending soldiers. Soldiers follow orders and fight with honor. What we're sending is different. She took a deep breath. We're sending the things that soldiers have nightmares about. We're sending the monsters that even humanity fears. The chamber erupted in questions and confusion, but Chen was done talking. She sat down and closed her eyes. In 3 days, the first Reaper transport ships would arrive at the front lines. Then the galaxy would understand. Humanity had demons in its closet, and now those demons were being set loose. She just hoped that when the war was over, they could be put back in their cages. Forward operating base Arcturus sat on the edge of hell. The military station orbited Talon 7, a planet that had been beautiful once. Now its surface was covered in Zathrine biostructures, black and twisted like tumors on the land. The base itself was a collection of ships and platforms where the combined galactic forces gathered. Commander Kailash of the Valorian Knights stood on the observation deck, watching his warriors prepare for battle. They polished their armor and sharpened their weapons, singing battle hymns. Nearby, the Draken breathed practice flames heating the air. The KEF strategists worked on tactical displays, calculating attack patterns. It was an impressive sight. Thousands of warriors from dozens of species all ready to fight, and they were losing. Every day, the Zathrine grew stronger. Their swarm consumed everything organic, transforming it into more soldiers for their hive mind. Kailash had watched 3 planetary defenses collapse in the past month. The enemy was relentless, endless, and utterly without mercy. Sir, unknown ships approaching, an officer reported. Kailash looked up at the display. 10 ships were coming out of hyperspace. They were dark, almost black, with no standard military markings. As they got closer, Kailash felt his blood run cold. Those are prison transports, the KEF coordinator said, its tentacles moving nervously over its console. Modified but definitely prison ships. Why would the humans send prison transports to a war zone? The ships moved into orbit but didn't join the main fleet. Instead, they positioned themselves in a quarantine zone, separate from all other forces. Kailash felt uneasy. What were the humans playing at? The human liaison is requesting a meeting, the communications officer said. Send them in, Kailash ordered. Colonel Ramirez entered the command center. He was a tall, thin man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. He wore a simple uniform with no decorations except for one patch on his shoulder. It showed a skull with cybernetic implants. Kailash had never seen that insignia before. Colonel Ramirez, Human Auxiliary Forces, the man introduced himself. His voice was flat, emotionless. "I'm here to coordinate the Reaper deployment." "Reaper?" Kailash asked. Ambassador Chen mentioned specialists, but she didn't give details. "And why are your forces in prison ships?" Ramirez was quiet for a moment. "Because that's where they've been kept for the last 150 years. In suspended animation. In maximum security facilities." The room went silent. A Draken warrior growled. "You send criminals? Prisoners? This is an insult." "Not criminals," Ramirez said carefully. "Something worse." "Explain yourself, human," Kailash demanded. His hand moved to his sword. "What exactly has your species sent to this battle?" Ramirez met his eyes. "During our colony wars, humanity created enhanced soldiers. Genetic modifications, cybernetic implants, psychological conditioning. They were designed to fight other humans in the most brutal conditions imaginable. They were perfect at it." "Too perfect, too perfect?" the KEF coordinator asked. "How can a soldier be too perfect?" "They won the wars," Ramirez continued. "But when the fighting ended, they couldn't stop. They saw threats everywhere. Some of them had to be put down. Others surrendered voluntarily. They knew what they had become. We locked them away because even we were afraid of them." Kailash felt anger rising. "And now you unleash them on us? On this base? These Reapers?" "Not on you," Ramirez corrected. "On the Zathreen. The Reapers were created to hunt the most dangerous prey in human history. They were made to fight humans, and humans are more dangerous than most species realize." "I've had enough of this," Kailash growled. "I demand to see these Reapers now." Ramirez nodded slowly. "That's your right. But I'm warning you, Commander. What you're about to see will disturb you. These aren't normal soldiers. They're not even normal humans anymore." The group of alien commanders followed Ramirez to the human zone. The area was sealed off with security barriers and warning signs. Armed human guards stood at every entrance. They looked nervous. "This way," Ramirez said, leading them into one of the converted prison ships. The interior was dark. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the metal walls. Kailash could hear something in the darkness. Breathing, movement, the sound of metal scraping against metal. "Lights," Ramirez ordered. The main lights came on. Kailash took a step back. They stood in a large bay filled with armored figures. At first glance, they looked like humans in combat suits. But as Kailash's eyes adjusted, he saw the differences. They were taller than normal humans, more heavily built. Their armor seemed to be fused directly to their bodies. When they moved, it was too smooth, too fast. Not quite natural. One of them turned to look at the visitors. Kailash saw its face through the helmet visor. The eyes glowed with a faint blue light. Cybernetic implants covered half its skull. Its expression was empty, calculating. It looked at Kailash the way a predator looks at prey. "These are Reapers," Ramirez said quietly. "Each one has hundreds of confirmed kills from the colony wars. They fought in zero gravity, underwater, in toxic atmospheres, in urban environments. They were designed to adapt to any combat situation. They look human," the Draken warrior said, but its voice was uncertain. "They were human once," Ramirez replied. "Now they're something else. Their bones are reinforced with carbon nanotubes. Their muscles are enhanced with biosynthetic fibers. They have secondary organs that produce combat stimulants. Their reflexes are 3 times faster than baseline human. Their strength is 5 times greater. And their minds," he paused. "Their minds have been conditioned to view combat as their natural state." A KEF coordinator waved its tentacles nervously. "How do you control them?" "We don't," Ramirez admitted. "We give them objectives and let them work. Trying to control a Reaper is like trying to control a predator. You just point them at the target and stay out of the way." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the base. The Zathreen were attacking. The swarm was approaching from the planet's surface, millions of insect-like creatures rising into space like a black wave. "All forces to battle stations," Kailash ordered. He ran toward the command center, his warriors following. Behind him, he heard Ramirez speaking into his communication device. "This is Ramirez to all Reaper units. You are cleared for deployment. All previous restrictions are lifted. Rules of engagement, none. Target Zathreen swarm. Objective, eliminate all hostile forces." Ramirez paused and then added quietly, "The leash is off. Hunt." Kailash reached the command center and pulled up the tactical display. The Zathrine swarm was massive, millions of creatures moving in perfect coordination. His Valorian knights were moving to defensive positions. The Draken were preparing to charge. The Kef were directing fire from the orbital weapons. Then he saw the Reapers deploy. They didn't move like normal soldiers. They dropped from their ships without landing craft, using personal thrusters to dive straight into the swarm. On the tactical display, they were 10,000 blue dots plunging into a sea of red. "This is suicide," a Kef officer said. "They'll be overwhelmed in seconds." But they weren't. The Reapers tore into the Zathrine swarm like knives through flesh. Kailash watched in horror as the tactical data came in. Each Reaper was killing at an incredible rate. They moved through the enemy forces like ghosts, appearing and disappearing, leaving destruction behind them. "Get me a visual feed," Kailash ordered. The screen showed external camera footage. A single Reaper fought in the void of space, surrounded by Zathrine bioforms. The creature moved with terrifying grace, its weapons cutting through enemies with surgical precision. But it wasn't just the fighting that disturbed Kailash. It was the efficiency. There was no wasted movement, no hesitation, no mercy. One of the Reapers landed on a Zathrine ship creature and tore through its hull with bare hands, augmented strength ripping through biological armor. Another Reaper used some kind of neural weapon that seemed to corrupt the Zathrine's hive-mind connection, causing entire sections of the swarm to attack each other in confusion. "What are they?" Kailash whispered. Ramirez had entered the command center. He stood watching the displays with a grim expression. "They're the monsters we made," he said quietly. "They're what humanity becomes when we stop pretending to be civilized. They're what we locked away because even we couldn't live with what we'd created." He turned to look at Kailash. "You asked for soldiers, Commander. We sent you nightmares instead, because nightmares are what you need to fight nightmares." The battle raged for 6 hours. When it was over, the Zathrine had retreated. They had never retreated before. The hive mind was learning something new. It was learning fear. The war changed after the first battle. Within 72 hours of the Reaper deployment, the Zathrine had been pushed back from 3 key positions around Talon 7, positions that had been considered lost, positions that galactic forces had died trying to hold. Commander Kailash watched the battle reports with growing unease. The numbers were undeniable. 10,000 Reapers were doing the work of millions of regular soldiers. But the way they did it made his skin crawl. "Show me the footage from Sector 7, he ordered his tactical officer. The screen displayed a recording from a Valorian knight's helmet camera. The knight and his squad were pinned down by a massive Zathrine assault. Thousands of the insect-like creatures poured from a breeding tunnel, overwhelming the defensive line. The Valorians fought bravely, their energy weapons cutting down enemies, but there were simply too many. Then the Reapers arrived. They came from above and below, from angles that shouldn't have been possible. 3 of them moved through the Zathrine swarm like death itself. One Reaper jumped onto the back of a large Exathrine warrior form, ripped open its armored shell and did something to its neural cluster. The creature began attacking its own swarm, confused and dying. Another Reaper moved so fast that the camera could barely track it. One moment it was 50 meters away. The next it was in the middle of the Zathrine formation, its blade weapons spinning in a pattern of destruction. Bodies fell like rain. The third Reaper simply walked forward, weapons firing with perfect accuracy. Not a single shot was wasted. Each bullet found a weak point, a joint, a neural cluster. It was as if the Reaper could see inside the Zathrine, knew exactly where to hit. The Valorian knight who was recording spoke in his own language. The translation came through. "By the ancestors, what are they?" Kailash stopped the footage. He had watched enough. These Reapers didn't fight with honor. They didn't fight with strategy. They fought like machines designed specifically to kill, because that's exactly what they were. "Commander, you have a visitor," his aide announced. "It's one of the humans." "A Reaper." Kailash felt his hand move toward his weapon. "Send them in, but keep security on alert." The Reaper that entered was designated Unit 247, according to the identification code on its armor. It was tall, almost 7 feet, with broad shoulders and arms that looked like they could tear through metal. Half of its face was covered in cybernetic implants. The visible eye was brown, but when it caught the light, Kailash saw a faint glow beneath the surface. Commander Kailash, the Reaper said. Its voice was strange, partially synthetic. Colonel Ramirez sent me to coordinate joint operations. Kailash studied the creature before him. I've been watching your forces fight. You're effective, but your methods are brutal. Unit 247's expression didn't change. The Zathreen don't understand honor. They understand strength and fear. We give them both. You're not like normal humans, Kailash said carefully. What did they do to you? For a moment something flickered in Unit 247's eye, something almost like pain, but it vanished quickly. They made us into what was needed, Unit 247 replied. Genetic enhancement, cybernetic augmentation, neural conditioning. We're stronger, faster, more durable than baseline humans. Our reaction time is measured in milliseconds. We can process tactical data faster than most ship computers. We don't feel fear the way normal humans do. Don't feel fear? Kailash asked. Then what drives you? What makes you fight? Unit 247 was quiet for a long moment. Purpose. We were made for war. It's what we are. The colony wars ended 150 years ago. But for us, it was just yesterday. We went into frozen sleep as soldiers and woke up the same way. This is what we know. This is what we're good at. Kailash walked to the window overlooking the planet. After this war ends, what will happen to your kind? We go back into the freezers, Unit 247 said simply. Back into stasis. It's better that way. We're not built for peace. Before Kailash could respond, alarms sounded again. Another Zathreen attack, this one larger than before. The swarm had learned from previous failures. They were adapting. I need to return to my unit, Unit 247 said, already moving toward the door. Wait, Kailash called. You said you don't feel fear. But I've studied the Zathreen. They're afraid of your kind. How? Unit 247 stopped at the doorway. Because we fight the way humans fight when they stop holding back. Most species in the galaxy evolved as prey or as pack hunters. You developed honor codes and strategy because you fought enemies like yourselves. But humans? We climbed to the top of our food chain by being more ruthless than anything else on our planet. We learned to use tools to set traps to think ahead. We became apex predators. The Reaper turned slightly. The Reapers are what happens when you take that human instinct and enhance it, refine it, perfect it. We don't just fight the Zathreen. We hunt them. We terrorize them. We make them feel what every prey species feels when a predator is near. That's why they're afraid. Then Unit 247 was gone, moving to rejoin the battle. The next engagement was watched by commanders from every species. The Zathreen had sent a new bioform, something massive and heavily armored. It was the size of a small ship, covered in thick plating with dozens of weapon appendages. Intelligence called it a devastator. Regular forces opened fire. Energy weapons splashed against its armor uselessly. Missiles exploded without penetrating. The Devastator advanced, crushing everything in its path. Then a single Reaper approached it. Unit 117, according to the identification tag. The Reaper was small compared to the massive Zathreen creature. It should have been crushed immediately. Instead, Unit 117 studied the Devastator for 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds. Then it moved. The Reaper ran straight at the creature, dodging weapon fire with movements that seemed impossible. It jumped onto the Devastator's leg, climbed up its armored body, and found a gap in the plating near what passed for a neck. The Reaper's arm blade extended and it stabbed into the gap, twisting. The Devastator shuddered. Unit 117 didn't stop. It drove its blade deeper, found the neural center, and destroyed it. The massive creature collapsed, dead in less than 30 seconds. Commanders across multiple species watched in stunned silence. A single Reaper had killed something that should have required concentrated fire from an entire fleet. Get me Colonel Ramirez, Kailash ordered. When Ramirez appeared on the communication screen, he looked tired, more tired than before. I've been watching your Reapers fight, Kailash said. They're winning this war for us. But I need to know something and I want the truth. Can you control them when this is over? Ramirez was quiet for a long time. That's the question, isn't it? We could control them last time because they chose to let us. Some of them volunteered to go into stasis. Others had to be forced. But they all knew on some level that they couldn't exist in normal human society anymore. And now they're fighting an enemy that actually needs their skills. An enemy they don't have to hold back against. They're remembering why they exist, why they were created. Ramirez rubbed his face. I'm worried, Commander. I'm worried that when this war ends, they won't want to stop. Then why did humanity send them? Kailash demanded. Why unleash something you can't control? Because the alternative was worse, Ramirez said flatly. The Zathrene would have consumed everything. Every world, every species, every child. We sent the Reapers because sometimes the only way to fight monsters is with monsters. We just have to hope that our monsters are willing to go back in their cages when it's over. The screen went dark. Kailash stood alone in his command center, watching the tactical displays. Blue dots and red dots moved across screens. The blue dots were winning. They were winning decisively. The Zathrene were being pushed back across multiple systems. But as Kailash watched, he realized something that made his blood run cold. The galaxy was being saved, but the price might be higher than anyone had imagined. They had asked humanity for soldiers, and humanity had sent nightmares. Effective nightmares. Winning nightmares, but nightmares nonetheless. And the real question was whether those nightmares could be put back to sleep when the war was finally over. 3 months into the war, the galaxy was winning. 7 systems had been retaken from the Zathrene. The swarm was in retreat for the first time since the war began. Every species celebrated the victories. Every species except the humans. Colonel Ramirez sat in his small office on the command ship reading reports he wished he didn't have to read. Incident reports. Casualty reports. Not from combat with the Zathrene. These were different. The first one was from Station Kepler 9. The station had been infiltrated by Zathrene scouts. 3 of the insect creatures had hidden in the ventilation systems, slowly converting organic matter to create more of their kind. A Reaper unit had been sent to eliminate the threat. They had succeeded, but they had also destroyed an entire habitat section. 345 civilians dead. When questioned, the Reaper commander had given a simple explanation. The infestation was spreading faster than containment could work. We eliminated the problem permanently. Ramirez put down that report and picked up another. On the colony world of New Bremen, a Reaper team had been clearing Zathrene from civilian areas. They had completed their mission with perfect efficiency. But the survivors reported nightmares. Children refused to sleep. Some adults needed therapy, not because of what the Zathrene had done, but because of what they had witnessed the Reapers do. A third report was more disturbing. Unit 891 had gone beyond mission parameters while hunting Zathrene. Instead of simply eliminating enemies, the Reaper had begun experimenting with different methods. Psychological warfare taken to extreme levels. Other units had reported that 891 seemed to be enjoying the work. Ramirez heard a knock on his door. Come in. It was Unit 117. The Reaper entered quietly and stood at attention. Even standing still, there was something predatory about the way it moved. You wanted to see me, sir? Unit 117 asked. At ease, Ramirez said. He studied the Reaper carefully. Unit 117 was one of the oldest, created early in the program. The file said its name used to be Sarah Chen before the transformation. I've been reviewing performance reports. Yours are concerning. My combat efficiency is within acceptable parameters, Unit 117 said. That's not what concerns me. Ramirez pulled up data on his screen. You've been deviating from mission protocols. Last week you were ordered to secure a supply depot. Instead you diverted to rescue a group of civilians who weren't part of your objective. Unit 117 was silent for a moment. The civilians were in danger. That wasn't your mission, Ramirez said. The depot was critical. You risked the operation to save people who weren't your responsibility. Yes, sir. Why? Another pause. When Unit 117 spoke, its voice was different. Quieter. I don't know, sir. The tactical decision was to complete the primary objective. But something made me go to them. Something that didn't come from my conditioning. Ramirez leaned back in his chair. This was what he had been afraid of. You're starting to remember, aren't you? Who you were before they made you into a Reaper. Unit 117's jaw tightened. Sometimes, fragments, a name, a face, feelings that the conditioning should have erased. The Reaper looked down at its hands that had killed hundreds of enemies. Sarah, I think that was my name. I was a soldier. I volunteered for the program because I wanted to protect people. But they took that person and made me into something else. The conditioning was supposed to be permanent, Ramirez said quietly. It's breaking down, Unit 117 admitted. Not just in me. I've noticed it in others. Unit 247 has been showing signs of independent thought. Even 891, the one who's becoming too aggressive, that's a deviation from programming. We're supposed to be weapons. Perfect, controllable weapons. But something is changing. Ramirez felt cold fear settle into his stomach. This was the nightmare scenario. Reapers breaking their conditioning. Becoming unpredictable. I need to report this to Earth Command. Will they terminate the program? Unit 117 asked. Will they put us back in stasis? I don't know, Ramirez admitted. The war isn't over yet. But if the Reapers become unstable, we're tools, Unit 117 said. Its voice had gone cold again, the conditioning reasserting itself. If we break, we get discarded. I understand. After the Reaper left, Ramirez sent an encrypted message to Earth. The response came 6 hours later. His orders were clear: continue the mission. Monitor the Reapers closely. Deal with the problem after the war was won. Meanwhile, Commander Kailash was conducting his own investigation. His intelligence team had uncovered classified human records about the end of the colony wars. What he read made him feel sick. The Reapers had won those wars just as they were winning this one. But at the end, some of them had refused to stand down. They had started viewing all humans as potential threats. The ones who couldn't be contained had been killed. Others had surrendered voluntarily, knowing they were too dangerous to exist in peacetime. Kailash went to find Ambassador Chen. He found her in the diplomatic quarters. Reviewing casualty reports, we need to talk, he said without preamble. Chen looked up. Commander, what can I do for you? You lied to us, Kailash said. When you offered the Reapers, you made it sound like they were controllable. But I've read the history files. After your colony wars, you had to hunt down some of your own Reapers because they wouldn't stop fighting. Chen's expression didn't change. That's not entirely accurate. Then correct me, Kailash challenged. Chen stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars glittered peacefully, but they both knew how deceptive that peace was. 90% of the Reapers surrendered willingly when the colony wars ended. They knew what they had become. They chose stasis because it was better than living as weapons in a world that didn't need them anymore. And the other 10%? Some couldn't be reconditioned. Their programming had evolved. They saw threats everywhere. Chen's voice was soft. We tried to help them. We really did. But in the end, some had to be terminated for the safety of everyone else. Kailash felt anger rising. And you sent them here anyway? You unleashed these creatures on us? I sent what was necessary to save your species, Chen said, turning to face him. Would you prefer the Zathrine? Would you prefer to watch your people consumed, your worlds turned into breeding grounds? The Reapers are dangerous, yes, but they can be contained. The Zathrine cannot, can they? Kailash demanded. Can the Reapers really be contained? Or are we just trading one nightmare for another? Chen met his eyes. That's the question, isn't it? That's the choice we made. Save the galaxy now, deal with the consequences later. You can judge us if you want, Commander. But ask yourself honestly, what would your people have done in our position? Kailash had no answer to that. That night, Unit 117 sat alone in a maintenance bay. The Reaper had removed its helmet, and in the dim light it looked almost human. Almost. Memories were surfacing. Not complete, just fragments. A childhood on Earth, parents who loved her. A decision to join the military. A desire to help people. Then the recruitment for the Reaper program. The promises. You'll be a hero. You'll save lives. You'll be stronger than you ever imagined. They hadn't mentioned the cost. They hadn't said that becoming a Reaper meant losing yourself. Unit 117 accessed a data file it had kept hidden, something from before the transformation. A personal log. Sarah Chen's voice spoke from the past. I'm doing this to protect humanity. I know the program will change me. They said the conditioning is necessary to make me an effective soldier. But if I become something else, if I become the monster they need me to be, I hope someone is brave enough to stop me if I go too far. The recording ended. Unit 117 sat in the darkness holding on to those words. I hope someone is brave enough to stop me. A new mission alert came through. The Zathrine had been located. Their homeworld, Hive Prime, the place where the swarm originated. Intelligence indicated it was heavily defended, perhaps unbeatable. All Reaper units were being mobilized for the final assault. Unit 117 stood, put the helmet back on, and became a weapon once more. But somewhere inside the armor and cybernetics and conditioning, Sarah Chen whispered a quiet prayer. She hoped that after this battle, after the war, someone would remember that Reapers had once been human, and that humans deserved the chance to come home. Hive Prime hung in space like a diseased tumor. The Zathrine homeworld was massive, covered in black biostructures that pulsed with alien life. Around it orbited thousands of ship creatures, each one filled with warriors ready to defend their queen. The combined galactic fleet surrounded the planet. Every species had sent their finest. Valorian knights prepared for the final charge. Draken warriors sang death songs. Kef strategists calculated attack patterns. And in the dark corners of the fleet, 10,000 Reapers checked their weapons and waited. Unit 117 stood with the other Reapers on the transport ship. Around it, the other enhanced soldiers made final preparations. Some were silent. Others tested their equipment with mechanical precision. No one spoke of fear because fear had been conditioned out of them. But Unit 117 felt something else. Something the conditioning couldn't quite erase. Doubt. "This is a trap," Unit 247 said quietly, moving to stand beside 117. "Intelligence is incomplete. The Zathrine are too smart to leave their homeworld vulnerable." "Agreed," Unit 117 responded. "But the mission is clear. We eliminate the Queen. Without her, the hive mind collapses. If we can reach her, we will reach her." Unit 117 checked its weapons one final time. "That's what we were made for." Colonel Ramirez's voice came through the communication system. "All Reaper units, this is command. You know your objective. The Queen is deep in the planet's core. Standard forces will provide orbital support, but the ground assault is yours. No restraints. No limitations. Complete the mission by any means necessary." There was a pause, and then Ramirez added something not in the official orders. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we made you into this. I'm sorry we're using you this way. But thank you. All of you." The transport ships launched. Unit 117 felt the familiar surge of combat stimulants flooding its system as the conditioning kicked in. All doubts vanished. All questions disappeared. There was only the mission. The landing was violent. Zathrine warriors swarmed the transport ships the moment they entered the atmosphere. Reapers poured out, engaging the enemy immediately. The battle was chaos, but Unit 117 moved through it with perfect efficiency. This was what it had been made for. The assault team pushed deeper into the planet's surface. The Zathrine fought desperately, throwing wave after wave of defenders. But the Reapers were unstoppable. They adapted to every defense, countered every tactic, and pushed forward through impossible odds. Then the trap was sprung. Zathrine bioforms emerged from hidden chambers, but these were different. They moved with new purpose, new intelligence. The Queen had been studying the Reapers through captured specimens. She had created warriors specifically designed to counter their advantages. These new warriors were faster, stronger, and they used weapons that targeted the Reapers' cybernetic implants. When the weapons fired, Reapers fell, their enhanced systems failing. Unit 117 watched as Unit 891 collapsed, its cybernetics shutting down completely. "They're using some kind of targeted electromagnetic pulse," Unit 247 reported. "It's keyed to our specific implant frequencies. They learned our weaknesses. Reapers were dying. The invincible soldiers were falling. Their enhancements betrayed." Unit 117's tactical display showed the numbers dropping. 8,000 Reapers, 7,000, 6,000. Through the chaos, Unit 117 spotted something, a tunnel leading deeper into the hive. The Zathrine were defending it with particular intensity. That had to be the way to the Queen. "I'm going for the core," Unit 117 transmitted. "Cover me." "That's suicide," Unit 247 responded. "Your cybernetics are already damaged. You won't survive. The mission is all that matters." Unit 117 ran toward the tunnel. Other Reapers provided covering fire, dying to give it a chance. The tunnel descended deep into the planet's crust, into darkness lit only by bioluminescent growths. The temperature rose. The air became thick with alien chemicals. One by one, the other Reapers who had followed fell behind. Their enhancements failed. Their conditioning broke. Only Unit 117 kept moving forward, driven by something stronger than programming. Finally, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. At its center was the Queen. She was enormous, bloated with the genetic material of 1 billion conquered species. Around her, smaller Zathrine tended to her needs. She looked at Unit 117 with compound eyes that held an alien intelligence. When she spoke, It was through a translation device taken from a previous victim. You are the weapon they fear. I have studied your kind. You are not one species. You are many. You are what humans become when they stop pretending to be civilized. Unit 117's weapons were failing. Its cybernetics were shutting down. The enhancements that made it a Reaper were dying, but it kept walking forward. You cannot win, the Queen continued. My children have learned your weaknesses. You are dying. Unit 117 felt its systems failing completely. The combat stimulant stopped flowing. The tactical displays went dark. The enhanced strength faded. In moments, it would be just human again. Just Sarah Chen, a soldier who had volunteered to become a monster. But Sarah Chen had been a soldier long before she became a Reaper. And soldiers don't quit. You're right, Sarah said, her voice human again. The Reaper is dying. But I'm still here. She threw away her weapons. They were useless now anyway. Instead, she ran at the Queen with nothing but human determination. The Zothrine warriors moved to intercept, but Sarah was faster. Not because of enhancements, but because of sheer will. She reached the Queen and climbed onto the massive creature. The Queen's biology was alien, but Sarah had studied enemy anatomy for years. There were always weak points, always vulnerabilities. She found the neural cluster and tore into it with her bare hands. The Queen screamed, a sound that echoed through the hive mind across the galaxy. Sarah kept tearing, kept destroying. Even as the Queen's defenders attacked her, pain meant nothing. The mission was everything. The Queen died, and the hive mind shattered. Across the galaxy, Zothrine warriors stopped moving. Without the Queen's coordination, they were just animals. Confused, lost, dying. Sarah fell from the Queen's corpse. Her body was broken. Her blood mixed with alien fluids on the chamber floor. She couldn't move, couldn't feel her legs, but she could still think. She thought about the family she barely remembered. She thought about the day she volunteered for the Reaper program. She thought about all the lives she had taken, all the years spent as a weapon instead of a person. And she thought about the galaxy that would live because of what she and the other Reapers had done. Mission complete, she whispered, to no one. The chamber collapsed around her as the hive began to die. 3 weeks later, Commander Kailash stood before the Galactic Council. The war was over. The Zothrine were defeated. 6,847 Reapers had survived. The question before us, the Council leader said, is what to do with humanity's enhanced soldiers now that the war is ended. Ambassador Chen stood. Humanity offers 2 options to the surviving Reapers. They can return to stasis as they did after the colony wars, or they can enter a rehabilitation program. We will attempt to reverse the conditioning, help them recover their humanity. It will take years, perhaps decades. But we owe them the chance to try. Kailash spoke next. I spent months fearing the Reapers. I thought they were monsters. I thought humanity had unleashed something evil upon the galaxy. He paused. I was wrong. Unit 117 proved that. In the end, when all the enhancements failed, when all the conditioning broke down, what remained was a human being who chose to sacrifice everything to complete the mission. Not because she was programmed to, but because she chose to. The Council debated for hours. Finally, they voted. The surviving Reapers would be given the choice. Some chose stasis. They knew what they were and they accepted it. But others chose rehabilitation. They wanted to try to become human again. 1 year later, a man sat in a rehabilitation center on Earth. His name was Marcus Hayes, but his file still read Unit 247. He was learning to be human again. It was hard. The conditioning ran deep. Sometimes he would have episodes where the Reaper programming tried to resurface. But he was trying. A counselor came to visit him. She handed him something. This arrived for you. It's a medal. From the Galactic Council. Marcus looked at the Galactic Medal of Honor. It felt strange in his hands. Heavy. Do you regret it? The counselor asked. What you became? Marcus was quiet for a long time. No, he finally said. Someone had to become the monster. Better it was us than people who had a real choice. He looked out the window at the normal humans living normal lives. We were the monsters they feared most. And we saved them anyway. The counselor made notes. The memorial was dedicated last week. On Talon 7 for all the Reapers who fell. What does it say? It says you were made to be monsters, but you chose to be heroes. Marcus smiled slightly. It felt strange. Reapers didn't smile, but he was learning to be human again. Unit 117 would have liked that. Sarah. She deserves to be remembered as human, not as a weapon. On Talon 7, the memorial stood silent. 3,153 names were carved into black stone, each one a Reaper who had died in the war. At the base was an inscription. They were made to be monsters, but they chose to be heroes. They gave up their humanity so that others could keep theirs. Every year on this day, the galaxy remembers not just what they did,